All right, let's jump right into a pretty startling realization. You know that little seed your grandparents considered perfectly normal to grow? Well, today, it might actually be a prohibited botanical offender. Welcome to This Explainer, where we are taking a deep dive into the fascinating and honestly sometimes shocking world of America's restricted plants.
Picture this for a second. You're planting a beautiful flower in your backyard, only to find out you're actually violating state or federal law. Crazy, right? There is literally no warning label on it, no obvious danger lurking in the soil. It's just a seed, some dirt, and a plant that gardeners halfway across the world probably consider entirely routine. But depending on exactly where you live, that simple, innocent act of gardening could land you in some really serious trouble. So today, we're counting down 20 plants that can be prohibited, restricted, or just legally problematic in parts of the United States.
Let's kick things off with group number 1, toxic and dangerous beauties.
We are starting our countdown with plants that are restricted because they pose a severe, direct physical threat to the human body. Honestly, these aren't just weeds, they are actual hazards. The really wild thing here is the stark contrast between their dramatic beauty and their hidden dangers. Take the castor bean at number 20. It looks amazing, almost tropical with these enormous star-shaped leaves and colorful seed pods. But those attractive seeds contain ricin. Yes, ricin, which is one of the most dangerous, naturally occurring toxins known to science. Touching the plant itself isn't the main issue, but the seeds make it a massive safety concern. Then we have the giant hogweed at number 18. This thing looks like it's straight out of a fantasy movie, towering over 10 feet tall with these massive flower clusters. But listen to this. If its sap gets on your skin and reacts with sunlight, it acts practically like a chemical weapon, causing severe burns and blistering. You can totally see why authorities have taken such aggressive action against it.
Moving on to category number 2, regulated controlled substances. Now, let's shift gears to a completely different category. Here, the restriction has absolutely nothing to do with physical danger while you're out in the garden. It is entirely about the plant's chemistry. These 5 plants cross the line from a simple garden hobby straight into federal drug and health enforcement. Take the opium poppy. It produces these gorgeous pink, white, purple, and red blooms. But, of course, it can also produce opium-containing material. Or coca. It has this long cultural history in South America, but because cocaine can be produced from it, growing it in the U.S. is heavily restricted at the federal level. We've also got peyote, which is a small spineless cactus containing the psychoactive substance mescaline, khat, a leafy plant with stimulant compounds called cathinone, and the erica palm, which produces betel nuts. Those nuts are actually associated with really serious health risks like oral cancer. It just goes to show how a plant can be a deeply rooted cultural tradition in one part of the world and a strictly controlled substance in another.
So the really crucial point to understand here is that plant law is incredibly nuanced. The idea that every single poppy is automatically illegal? That's a massive oversimplification. It really depends on the specific species and the purpose of cultivation. Furthermore, U.S. law actually contains specific religious protections relating to peyote for certain Native American practices, a fascinating place where law, culture, and religion all intersect. And regarding the erica palm, the restrictions focus heavily on the health risks of consuming the nut. That shouldn't be confused with a blanket, nationwide ban on growing every single erica palm as an ornamental plant. You really have to look closely at the specific statutes.
Which brings us to Section 3, aggressive terrestrial invaders.
Next up, we are examining plants that don't poison you and they don't produce drugs. Instead, they are highly restricted because they aggressively conquer and literally destroy the American landscape. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate irony. Many of our absolute worst terrestrial invaders were intentionally brought here. Government agencies or well-meaning citizens planted them to solve problems, only for those very plants to become massive agricultural nightmares themselves. Kudzu, for example, was heavily promoted during the Great Depression as a miracle solution for poor soil and erosion. The reality? It completely overwhelms trees, fields, and entire roadsides. Autumn olive was planted for wildlife habitat in making jams, but it escaped to form dense competitive thickets. And the multiflora rose? It was supposed to provide cheap living fences, but it turned into huge, impenetrable thorny thickets that crowd out native vegetation and cost years of grueling effort to control. It just goes to show that not every useful plant belongs everywhere.
And get this, even plants with delicious, edible parts can be unstoppable spreaders that completely ruin an ecosystem. Japanese knotweed has young shoots that taste a bit like rhubarb, which sounds great, right? But its underground rhizomes can literally push their way through solid pavement. They turn one little patch into a long-term property management nightmare. Garlic mustard is another one. It smells like garlic and was highly valued by European settlers for food, but now it entirely dominates and alters the soil of the American forest floor. And just look at purple loosestrife. It provides lots of nectar for pollinators and looks like an absolute dream garden flower, but it brutally displaces native wetland vegetation.
That brings us to a quote that perfectly captures the danger of our final terrestrial spreader, the tree of heaven. Sometimes, the biggest problem in a garden isn't what the plant does today, but what it allows tomorrow. The tree of heaven sounds magical, right? But environmental agencies frequently target it for aggressive control. Why? Well, not only does it grow rapidly and produce huge numbers of seeds, but it also serves as a crucial host for the highly destructive invasive spotted lanternfly. What the plant allows tomorrow is sometimes the greatest threat of all.
All right, moving on to Section 4, Aquatic Ecosystem Destroyers.
Let's transition from the land to the water, where innocent-looking plants can spread exponentially faster and literally suffocate entire ecosystems. Aquatic invaders follow a terrifyingly efficient step-by-step playbook, where just a tiny fragment accidentally dumped from a fish tank can quickly choke a whole lake to death. Because they travel so easily through water systems, one single escaped fragment rapidly reproduces. Then, under favorable conditions, they form these massive, incredibly thick, dense mats right across the water's surface. This completely blocks the sunlight, severely reduces oxygen levels, and eventually transforms a healthy waterway into a hostile environment. It destroys native life and severely interferes with human infrastructure.
Notice how perfectly innocent aquatic plants become absolute disasters the second they wash into natural rivers and lakes. Water hyacinth and giant salvinia look absolutely perfect as floating ornaments in a backyard botanical pond, but they reproduce extremely quickly in the wild, completely damaging the ecosystem. Hydrilla and Brazilian elodea are incredibly popular in the aquarium trade. I mean, they look totally innocent sitting in a fish tank in your living room, but if they escape, their dense underwater growth ruins native aquatic vegetation and ruins boating. And then there is water spinach, also known as kangkung. It's a nutritious, highly productive vegetable in many Asian cuisines. But that exact productivity makes it an invasive nightmare if its stems escape into American irrigation and natural waterways.
And that brings us to the #1 botanical offender on our list. Meet the invasive water chestnut, known scientifically as trapa. Now, first, let's make a crucial distinction. This is not to be confused with the common Asian cuisine vegetable you might be picturing right now. This aggressive aquatic plant is an absolute powerhouse of destruction. It forms enormous, impenetrable floating mats across ponds and lakes. Authorities have to work aggressively to physically remove it, and not just because of those sunlight-blocking mats. It actually drops sharp, hazardous spiny roots that can literally injure people and severely damage equipment. It represents the ultimate ecological threat when introduced into the wrong environment.
Finally, Section 5. Know your local laws. After seeing all 20 of these forbidden plants, we really have to look at the bigger lesson here for anyone with a patch of dirt or a backyard pond. The most critical takeaway from this explainer is that the ultimate responsibility lies with you, the gardener, to navigate this somewhat chaotic web of regulations. Saying a plant is illegal in America rarely means it's illegal nationwide. These laws vary dramatically between federal, state, county, and special invasive species programs. And as we've seen, restrictions exist for vastly different reasons, everything from deadly toxins and controlled substances to massive ecosystem destruction. Honestly, the biggest gardening mistake you can make isn't necessarily intentionally planting a dangerous plant, it's simply planting the wrong plant in the wrong ecosystem. You absolutely must check the specific regulations in your jurisdiction before you plant something imported or exotic.
At the end of the day, a plant can be edible, useful, or incredibly beautiful, and still be a devastating threat in the wrong hands. So before you dig that hole and plant that unusual, beautiful seed, ask yourself, are you cultivating a masterpiece, or are you accidentally growing a crime scene?